This video is sponsored by NordVPN.
Hey everyone, Ace of Clay here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. If you're new here, I'm a sculptor and every week I make a new sculpture. In today's video, I'm doing another creepypasta and I'm making the Rake. Now, the Rake doesn't have a very detailed backstory. It's based on people's supposed encounters with him, and based on these wonderful images, we can see that he is this tall, gangly, humanoid creature, kind of Gollum-like in my opinion, and many depictions show him having these really long, blade-like fingers, and he's usually crawling on all fours. Some stories of him say that he watches you while you sleep and then kills you when you wake up. Now, the Rake is, of course, one of the more popular creepypasta characters, and I asked you all in a couple polls last week if you wanted to see me make him or Eyeless Jack, and every poll said you wanted to see the Rake, so here he is. And I do have to say that this is the creepiest sculpture I've ever made. Don't you want to see that? And then before we start, if you want more content from me outside of YouTube, be sure to check me out on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at Ace of Clay, and I would love for you to follow me. And without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, first step is to make the armature, which is the underlying structure for the figurine. What I'm using is 12 gauge aluminum wire, and I'm shaping out the sort of skeleton of the Rake, and then attaching his arms and connecting the waist with some floral wire. Now I got something that looks like this. And then I'm going to bulk out the torso with some Sculpey Ultralight. And as always, all of the materials and tools that I use in this video are listed in the description box below, along with my affiliate links if you want to purchase anything. And after roughly shaping out the torso, it's time to bake it, and then once it's baked and completely cooled down, it is nice and hardened, and it's time to cover the entire thing in some Super Sculpey Original. And if you can't tell already, I want this guy to be very lanky and sort of spidery, maybe even insect-like, if you will. So I'm just using a little bit of clay on the torso, and I didn't have to bulk the legs or the arms out at all. I'm just putting on my final layer of clay because they're so skinny. And then I'm just shaping out the thigh here, and now the bottom half of the leg. We're just going to smooth everything out. Now once his torso and legs are generally shaped out and all the clay has been added, I'm going to slowly start adding some details. And then I just want to experiment with some skin texture here. Nothing final, just want to see what it'll look like. And then I want him to be really bony, so I'm going to really define those kneecaps. Now using this cone-shaped rubber tool, I'm going to start detailing that knee. Now let's start going at that skin texture. I'm just sort of crisscrossing these long lines. Then I'm using my tiny ball stylus to add another little texture by the knee. Now let's bring out that pectoral area. And because he's pretty emaciated looking, I'm going to add the bottom of his ribs like that and blend everything in. And then before I can start adding the muscles in the shoulder area, I have to attach his neck. So I did that, and I'm using some snakes of clay to detail that neck. Okay, now I'm going to go in with some definition and texture with a couple different tools. Now we're going to give him a bony spine, really make those vertebrae protrude down the middle of his back. So I'm just hitting these little balls of clay, and then I'm going to blend the edges in with the rest of his back with this little rubber tool, like so. And we're just going to repeat this process for every little bump. Now with a snake of clay, I'm going to add some shoulder blades. And now using my medium ball stylus, I'm going to define the ribs. Alright, now while we're texturing the rest of him, I'm kind of on this fan art kick right now, if you can't tell. If there are any characters in particular that you would like to see me make in the coming weeks, let me know in the comments below. Okay, now let's attach his foot with some more clay, and I want to keep these pretty human looking based on some of the fan art and images of him. These feet aren't as crazy as his hands. Now, as you know, this marks the third creepypasta character that I've made, and I think, in my opinion, the Rake is definitely the creepiest out of the three. Out of Slenderman, Jeff the Killer, definitely think the Rake is the worst. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. Now we're just going to finish up his other foot, and then once he's done, we're going to brush the entire surface with clay softener to remove fingerprints. And then before we go any further, let's talk about our sponsor.
This video is sponsored by NordVPN. Typically when you go to a website, you connect to your internet service provider or ISP, and then they direct you to the site you want to visit. When this happens, you go through your ISP's servers so they can track and see everything you do online, and I mean everything. They may even give your lovely browsing history to government agencies, advertisers, or other third parties. Now, if you don't like how this sounds and it makes you a little uncomfortable, I have good news. This is where NordVPN comes in. It's a service that encrypts your internet activity and protects your online identity. So everything I said earlier, the whole selling your browsing history to the government, won't happen with a VPN. Now, what makes NordVPN great is they will never track your activity, and they will even protect your data when you're traveling or in public, like at airports or coffee shops. They have 24/7 customer support that includes live chat and email, a 30-day money-back guarantee, up to 6 simultaneous connections, and even double data encryption for increased security, and of course it's compatible with most operating systems. And to make this even better, you can have all of this protection and peace of mind for 70% off if you go to nordvpn.com and use my code ACEOFCLAY. With this offer, it works out to be $349 a month, and they even give you a month for free. So what do you got to lose? Start protecting your internet activity today with NordVPN. Now let's get back to sculpting.
Okay, so while I was talking about NordVPN, I had him in the oven and I pre-baked his body. Now we're going to go ahead and add some more clay and make his arms. And then to make it easier to attach the clay to the wire, I just cut that line down the middle vertically of that snake of clay and sort of nested the wire inside that little groove and then blended it shut around the front. This makes it a little easier to attach than just smashing it on. Another way to make the clay stick to the wire more is to use a smaller gauge wire, wrap it around your main wire, and it'll act as an anchor. And once the arms are shaped out, it's time for detail. And then we're going to go on to the fingers. Now, because I made the wire too short in the arms, I had to add another piece with some floral wire. This isn't the ideal way to do it, but I did make it work. It would have been much easier if I just would have left that wire longer during the armature stage. And of course, I did have to do this on the other hand as well. Then to attach his other fingers, I just added some clay over some more wire that I put into the right position, and I'm poking it into the extra clay on his hands like so. Again, this would have been easier had I included the extra fingers in the armature. I don't know what I was thinking. So if you're going to do this, make sure that you account for all fingers during the armature stage. Now once everything's looking pretty good, let's add some more texture and then start his head. I'm just shaping out the core of his head with some aluminum foil. Then we're going to cover this in clay. And I just want to attach it to his body really quick just so I have it positioned at the correct angle and the hole is in the right spot. Now we're going to press out his eye sockets with my large ball stylus, like so, and then start carving out the mouth. And just to see what it looks like, I want to add a little tongue. And then for his eyes, I'm using some glow-in-the-dark clay, just like I did with Jeff the Killer, and I'm putting it behind these 6mm cabochons so that they glow in the dark. And now after shaping out his temples and parts of his head with my fingertips, I'm going to go ahead and add some very dark red clay that I mixed off camera. I'm going to add this to the back of his mouth. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to add some teeth in front of it. And then once I add the teeth, I won't be able to fit my paintbrush behind them. Alright, now let's add some cracks and wrinkles along his mouth. Now let's give him his tongue back. And let's start detailing it. Gonna add that line down the middle and then start adding the texture with this tiny ball stylus. Super easy and super effective. Haven't said that in a while. Now we're just refining things a little bit with that same ball stylus. Now I'm going to add some bacon bond to secure the teeth that I'm going to add in just a second. I'll start adding them. Normally I would pre-bake the teeth, but I didn't really think it was necessary this time. You can always pre-bake them. There's nothing wrong with that. I just felt like I didn't need to and it worked out fine. Now I'm going to add a very tiny snake of clay to finish off his upper lip, and I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. His head's pretty much done. Let's attach it with some bacon bond and finish off the back of his neck. Then brush it with clay softener to remove fingerprints and get him ready for his final bake. Then once he's baked and completely cooled down, it's time for paint. All of the amazing paints that I use in this video are Folk Art brand matte acrylics. We're just going to go on with a nice light gray primer coat, get it all over the entire thing. And now to bring out that crazy skin texture I put on earlier, I'm going to dry brush some lighter gray, like so. And to dry brush, what you're going to do is completely saturate your brush in paint and brush off as much of it as possible after you do that, and then gently glide it on the surface so that you're only hitting the raised areas of the clay. As you can see here, it's not going into the lines and skin texture, it's just staying on the surface. We're going to do that all over the place, like so, and then gradually lighten it. And now I'm using some watered down white to soften some of that texture a little bit, and then dabbing off the excess with paper towel. This is called a wash. Now to add another level of detail, I'm just going to add some watered down black to the tips of his fingers and to all of his joints, just to give it a little more dimension and make him look kind of dirty, like he's been running in the forest. Now I'm going to use some dark red, paint the base of his tongue, and then his eye sockets pure black. Oh look, there's my face. Now using some of that black wash, I'm going to go in with a very fine paintbrush and really bring out those nooks and crannies on his face. After finishing up my black wash, I'm going to go in with some golden ochre and paint the base coat on his teeth, and then I'm going to lighten it with the color taffy. Now I want to bring out his wrinkles just a little bit more. Now I'm just dabbing on some lighter red to his tongue to bring out those details, and I'm going in and dabbing a wash of red violet and the color grotto into different areas to sort of give it this veiny kind of appearance. Not going to do this too much, I just want to add it here and there sparingly. Now let's glaze his tongue and teeth with some glossy varnish. And for the last step, we're going to scratch off that excess paint from his eyes with my Explorer tool. And he's done! The rake is complete. Let me know what you think of this guy in the comments, and then if you use any of the tips and techniques in this video on your own projects, share them to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and tag me at AceOfClay or hashtag AceOfClay so I can check them out.
And that's a wrap. I hope you like my version of the rake. I think he looks really cool. I am extremely happy with him. I like that I added the purple and the green and his little tongue. Not a lot of pictures of him show him with the tongue, so I'm glad I added that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you think I did bringing this guy to life? And once again, thank you so much NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check them out. And then as always, thank you so much for watching and being here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and then follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at AceOfClay. I'm also on TikTok, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.